Welcome back to Monster Tamer, a 2D Pokemon-like RPG created Phaser 3. Previously, we reviewed the new feature rebuilding, and that's support for multiple monsters. If you missed the previous videos, with links in the video description to the source code to this point, as well as complete source code for this video. There'll also be a link to the previous videos so they get to catch up, so let's get started. So now that we've loaded in our new assets that we'll need for our battle scene, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on updating some of our battle classes to support when we want to switch a monster. So the first class we're going to go ahead and take a look at is going to be our battle monster class. And what we want to do is for our battle monster and our player battle monster class, any of our game objects that are tied to our monster, when we switch a monster, we're going to need to update these so they have the relevant values. So as an example, if I want to switch from Iguanodite to Carnodusk, I need to update our name, our HP values, our HP bar, and our EXP bar, depending on what our monster's current stats are. And so that's what we're going to focus on doing, is adding in this support. So in our battle monster class, the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and come up to the top of our class. We need to add a new property, and this is going to be for our monster name text. So currently we have this hard-coded to a variable, and we don't reference it anywhere else in our class. In order to update this, we'll need to keep track of that property. So let's go to the top of our class. We're going to go ahead and copy this line of code here. We'll go ahead and paste it, and we're just going to go ahead and call this monster name text. And then what we'll need to do is let's go ahead and come down to our create health bar components method. And inside this method, this is where we create that game object. So let's go ahead and replace monster game text with our new property. So we'll do this, we'll do our monster name text. And you just need to update our references inside this method. So let's just copy this. We'll update our width there, and when we add it to our container. All right, besides this change, we're going to add a new public method for allowing us to switch monsters. So this is going to be common between our player and enemy battle classes, so that way later on, we could also support our enemy monsters switching out as well. So what we'll do is let's come back up to our class. We'll come right below our getters. We're going to add a new method, and we're just going to call this switch monster. And so for this method, we're going to need to receive our monster details that we need to update in our class for the monster that is now active. And so we'll just have one argument, and it's going to be monster. And then so real quick, I'm going to go ahead and add in our type definition. And so this is just going to be our monster type definition for our argument. And we won't return anything from this method. So now inside this method, this is where we want to go ahead and do all of our updates to our various game objects and our underlying data set. So the first thing we'll do is let's go ahead and update our monster details property. And so we'll store a reference to the new object that was passed in. And so we'll store a reference to monster. So now we just need to go through and start updating things like our health, our EXP bar, and our various attacks and things like that. So we'll go ahead and start off with our health. So first, let's do our current health. We're going to set equal to our monster details. And we want to grab our current HP. Then we'll want to go ahead and do our max HP. So we'll do our max health will be equal to our monster details. And we want to grab our max HP. All right, and then for our health, we'll want to go ahead and update our health bar. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll do our health bar. Let's go ahead and set our meter. We'll go ahead and update the value. And so what we'll do is we'll take our current health, we'll divide it by our max health. And then we'll want to make sure we don't actually animate this. So we'll go ahead and do our optional property of skip battle animations, and we'll do true. So now that we've updated our HP, the next thing we want to do is update our monster's attacks. So we'll start off by emptying out our array. So we'll reassign this monster attacks to a new array. And now we want to go ahead and loop through all of our attack IDs and use our data utils to get the attacks. So very similar to what we did when we went ahead and created an instance of our class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this block of code here. We're going to go ahead and paste it down here. And so all we're doing is just looping through our attack IDs on our monster details. For each one, we're going to our data utils, and we're grabbing the actual monster's attack metadata. And we add that to our array. So once we have our attacks, now we need to actually update our game object that's tied to our monster's image. And so we just need to call the set texture method on our game object. So let's go ahead and grab a reference to our phaser game object. We'll call set texture. And now we just need to provide the texture that we want to go ahead and use. So let's grab that from our monster details. And we'll use our asset key, and then we'll go ahead and also check for a frame if one is provided. And so we'll have our monster details, we will have asset frame, and otherwise we'll fall back to 0 if one's not provided. So now we need to update our text game object, so we need to update our name and then our level text. So what we'll do is we'll do our monster name, do set text, and we'll go ahead and do this, our monster details, and we'll grab our name property. Then we'll go ahead and call our set monster level text method. And then the last thing we'll want to do is we want to update our position on our level text. So since some of our monster names are longer than the others, we'll want to go ahead and reposition this after we update our text here. So to go ahead and do that, we'll just go ahead and reference our monster health bar level text game object. We'll use the setX method to go ahead and set our X property. And now we just need to go ahead and calculate that based on our monster's name text, our width, and then we'll just add 35 to it to add some padding. So just like we did when we created that game object initially. All right, so now we update our battle monster class. Next, we want to jump over to our player battle monster class. And what we're going to want to do is now we need to update our game objects that are specific to our player and not our enemy. So on our player, this is where we store our EXP bar. And so we'll want to do a similar thing where we update this like we did with our health bar. So what we'll do is let's come down to our update monster EXP bar method. And what we're going to want to do is we want to add a new argument to know if we need to go ahead and skip checking for our battle animations. Because like our health bar, we just want it to be set to our value. We don't actually want to animate it. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and move our arguments around a little bit. And we'll come back to this in a second. But basically what I want to do is I want to make our callback be optional. And we'll go over that in a second. So we're just going to add a default value. And so we'll just have a default function that does nothing. So after leveled up, we want to add in our new argument for knowing if we want to skip our battle animations. And then I'm just going to go ahead and update our type definition here. So we'll have this here. We want to go ahead and make this optional. So we're just going to add our default value. And then we want to go ahead and add in our skip battle animations. So we'll just copy this and we'll update the argument name. And then real quick, because we changed these, let's go ahead and jump over to our battle scene and we'll come down to our new state. We want to just go ahead and update our order here. So we're just going to copy this. We're going to go ahead and paste that here. And then we are going to do false for our second argument because we do want to show our animations. All right, and then we'll jump back to our player battle monster class. All right, so the reason we made our callback optional is what we want to do in our player battle monster class is we want to go ahead and override our switch monster method. And so we want to do all of this logic, but we also want to go ahead and do our logic where we update our EXP bar. And so what we're going to end up doing is when we override this method, we're going to go ahead and call our update monster EXP bar. And we don't need to call back, so we don't need to do anything, but we do want to go ahead and skip our animations. So what I'm going to do is in our battle monster class here, I'm just going to copy this part of our code here so we have our definition. I'm going to come down to the bottom of our player battle monster class, paste it in. And now what we'll do is we'll call super, we'll do switch monster, we'll pass in our monster. That way we run all of that logic. And then we want to go ahead and set our health bar text. So that way we update that. Because right now on our player, we display our HP right here, but we don't do that on our enemy monster. Now we want to go ahead and do our EXP bar. So we're just going to go ahead and reference our update monster EXP bar method. And now we're just going to go ahead and pass false because we didn't level up. This is just when we switch. We want to go ahead and do true, so we skip our animations. And we're just going to go ahead and pass undefine for our callback. Since we just want to go ahead and set those values, we don't need to be notified when it's done. All right, so one other change we're going to do in our player battle monster class is we're going to go ahead and add logic to hide our health bar component when our monster dies. Because we'll also be using the animation for when we switch our monster out because we just have that monster disappear off the screen. And when that happens, we'll also want to go ahead and have this animate off the screen as well instead of just staying present and disappearing. So to support this change, what we're going to do is we're going to come up to our play death animation method. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to do another tween and we're going to go ahead and animate our health game object off of our scene, kind of like when we animated to have it come on. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to copy this block of code here. So we have another tween, go ahead and paste it. And we'll keep the same delay and duration. So that way it animates just the same as our monster, the same as our game object for our monster. But now we need to go ahead and update our target. And so for our target, we want to go ahead and grab our phaser health bar game container. All right, so next we just need to go ahead and update the property that we're targeting. So instead of our Y value, we're going to do our X value. Because what we're going to do is we're going to have our health bar animate back off our screen to the right-hand side. And so for our positioning, we want to use our container's X position as our starting point. So we'll do from, and we'll set it to our X value. We'll do same thing for our start. And now for our ending position, we need to go ahead and calculate this. And so we're going to go ahead and come up to the top of our method. We'll make a new variable. And so what we'll do is we need to store our starting position, and then we need to calculate our end position. And the reason we want to store our start position is after our animation is completed, we want to go ahead and reset our game object's position back to where it should be. So then that way our animation will play properly once we bring out our next monster. And so what we'll do is we'll do health bar, start, X position. We're going to set it equal to our phaser game container.x property. And now we want to go ahead and do our health bar and X position. And we're just going to go ahead and just do 1200 for our X position. So now what we can do is down here in our properties, we want to go ahead and do our health bar and X position. Then in our onComplete method, this is where we want to go ahead and reset our position back to the start. And so we'll do this. We'll do our phaser game object container, and we'll do set X. And we want to go ahead and do our health bar, start X position. But in addition to that, we want to go ahead and hide our game object so it's not visible to the player. So we're going to go ahead and call set alpha, and we're going to go ahead and reset, and we're going to go ahead and set that to 0. Because we're doing that here, we're also going to do that same thing up here when we skip our battle animations, so we end up hiding our game object. But it'll still be in the same position because that's what we're doing down here. All right, we'll go ahead and just our changes real quick for our animation. What we'll do is let's come into our monsters JSON file. For Iguana Knight, we're going to go ahead and bump our current HP down to 5, so we should get knocked out. And then for our preload scene, let's go ahead and launch into our title scene. So we just go ahead and reset our stats. And we'll go ahead and do a new game. Go ahead and save our game. And then what we'll do is we'll revert this back to battle scene. And now what we should be able to do is, let's go ahead and do fight. We'll go ahead and get knocked out. We see our monsters hidden, and our health bar container is now hidden as well. So then what we'll do is let's go ahead and switch back to our title scene. We're just going to go ahead and update our options real quick. And we're going to turn on our animations. Let's go ahead and do new game. Go ahead and save. And let's go ahead and revert back to our battle scene. All right, so our monster gets knocked out and we can see our health bar animates off our screen. All right, so what we're going to do real quick is back in our preload scene, let's go back to our title scene, and we're just going to turn off our animations again so we can test our other changes. And then what we'll do, let's go ahead and reset our monster's HP back to 25. All right, with those changes, that brings this video to an end. In our next video, we'll continue working on our battle scene, and we're going to focus on adding additional logic for allowing us to switch to other monsters in our party. So as a reminder, there is a link in the description of the video to the complete source code for this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video and hitting the bell icon to be notified when the next video in the series is released. For more great Phaser 3 content, please see some of the links on your screen now.